Hi everybody, it's Izzy or Isabel. I'm going to be analyzing the story Pack Light by Chelsea Zena. Let's start off with the first question. What's the story's conflict, and when is the story's conflict introduced, and is it in medias res? I think the story's conflict, I don't think it's just one. I think there might be a couple of conflicts in the story. One of them is definitely person versus person, in terms with Pat's dad. They obviously have an issue with them because they want to leave so bad. Another person versus person conflict is with Jared, the presumed boyfriend partner. Like, pretty much throughout the story, you see it kind of turn into a more negative way, and I think he ends up hitting her at one point. So that's another conflict. And last but not least, I think person versus self. Pat's with herself, she struggles. We're not really sure. We can just kind of assume. I think it's more of like a depression, like a sense of maybe love. I think they're very desperate to be free and explore the world, and it feels almost like they're in a box kind of things. That's why I think one of the conflicts is person versus self. They're struggling to kind of, like, in a way, be independent. I think that's what it is. I think that's the last conflict that I noticed. The other question is, when is the story's conflict introduced? It's introduced right away, like the first line. They lived in a cramped apartment, and then the dad would never let them out. I guess they were very strict, and then they had mood swings, so it's kind of implied that they were violent, and obviously they wanted to leave. That's kind of the main thing of the story. Is it in medias res? I want to say yes and no, because like the first line, it's saying how they have like this heavy feeling from the beginning of since they were born, which obviously that's not medias res, but I want to say it is medias res because it kind of begins in the beginning of they want to leave, and it tells you a little bit of background story as to why they want to leave. That's why I think it could also be medias res. So yes and no. I'm not 100%. I'm leaning more towards yes. It's medias res. Anyways, how is the conflict resolved or unresolved in the story, and what kind of plot does it use? I believe the conflict, all those conflicts that I mentioned, I think it is resolved. The very first line, it starts off with I was 17 waiting for someone to rescue me, etc., etc. And then the last line, it's like, I was 18 when I was waiting for someone to rescue me. And it's kind of like almost like a self-actualization of themselves, and then realizing that they don't need anybody to come save me. Like, they can do what they want to do. So that's why I think definitely the person versus self conflict is resolved because they have almost like an enlightenment of sorts. And then obviously the person versus person is resolved because it seems we don't know yet. And that's why I said that one's not definitive, because we don't know yet if they ever communicate or get in touch with the dad or Jared ever again. So that's why that one's kind of not resolved, sort of, based on what we know. What kind of plot does he use? The plot that it uses, I kind of noticed two plots in this story. The first one was, I believe it was the voyage and return. Obviously, this whole story is kind of based of them getting asked to pretty much run away. And you kind of see the story of them jumping from hotel to hotel, and then running out of money eventually, and then the conflicts of the person versus person with Jared, with him not seeming who he was. Like, he eventually hits her, which is really sad and unfortunate for her. But I think there's that the protagonist, Pat, she grows as a result of the entire journey, and they come to this realization that they don't need anybody. And another plot that I was thinking that it could be was overcoming the monster, which is the person versus self kind of thing. Overcoming the monster inside them of not needing anybody and wanting to, break free and get rid of that heavy feeling in Pat's life. That's why I think there could be two potential plots there. Next question. Does Xena demonstrate a good understanding of character arc in this story? I think she does. I think the character arc that I mostly identified was, let me see if I can remember, positive change. Really, that's what it was called. Excuse me, the positive change arc. So pretty much it's transformational, but not super dramatic. So you kind of see it starts off in a very negative way and it becomes negative and then way more negative. But then at the end, they realize, I don't need this. I don't deserve this. That's why I think it's like a positive change kind of arc. And it was really great to see. It could also be transformational, but that one's more like a hero kind of arc. That's why I thought it was more like positive change arc. And I thought they used it very effectively, to be honest. Last question. Is there dramatic irony in Xena's story? This one was a little tough because having to read like the definition of dramatic irony in our week 4 text. Dramatic irony, as we know, it's pretty much something that the audience knows and the character doesn't, and I don't think I felt like that when I was reading the story. I felt like I was Pat's and I was living her story as in time. So I knew exactly what was happening to her on her trips. We knew what food she was eating, all the bed bugs in the motels. So I don't think there was ever a point where we didn't know something that she didn't. If anything, I think it's more situational irony. Pat's really wanted to break free, and she thought she was going to have that with Jared, and it went downhill. It was not what she expected. It was a complete opposite, He ended up hitting her. He was violent. He was aggressive. He was manipulative. He was super manipulative. I think at one point he says, "I love you. Nobody loves you more than I do." Nobody. That's some really manipulative stuff to say to somebody. So that's why I think it's situational. The person that she thought was going to save her wasn't him. It was herself. She kind of had this breakthrough, this rebirth, and I'm glad she got out of this story. But yeah, thank you for watching my video.